the Pioneer viewers, I hope you're having a great day. We continue to bring you the latest updates on Russia-Ukraine war, and today we will focus on important developments in the Russian armed forces on the front line. So, as I mentioned in our previous reports, the situation of the Russian army is quite critical, and for this reason, many Russian soldiers find themselves looking for ways to escape the battlefield. So, however, Russia's war leadership is making a great effort to control the situation, and in recent reports, we have shared with you signs of mutiny among the Russian soldiers. And according to the latest reports, there are also signs of mutiny among the soldiers who will take part in the Kharkiv attack. So these new allegations of mutiny have caused great concern to the Russian war leadership. But are Russian soldiers really fleeing in the battlefield? And what are the measures taken by the Russian leadership? Let's analyze the details together for the answers to all these questions. But before moving on to our report, I would like to make a small reminder. As the Pioneer team, we strive to bring you the latest developments in Russia-Ukraine war, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily reports and explanations. You know that I read all of your comments on our videos. It's a notification on my phone, it's inevitable. So please continue to share your ideas about our content in the comments. Tell us in the comments what content you would like to see on the Pioneer channel. And let's start if you're ready. The Pioneer reports. So Ukraine's defense lines are putting up an epic resistance with the determination of its armed forces on the front lines, and tense fighting is taking place at every moment, with the Ukrainian military units stubbornly resisting Russian forces. The defense line formed by the Ukrainian armed forces has become an important factor preventing the Russian troops from advancing, and the Russian forces are trying various strategies to overcome this obstacle. So far, however, even tactics such as relentless bombardment and failed to force the Ukrainian defense line. Ukrainian troops are making a determined effort not to leave their positions and have been stopping Russian forces for a long time without making any significant progress. So, according to sources in the region, the resistance of the Ukrainian armed forces have caused a major demoralization among the Russian troops, and as it will be remembered, the Ukraine's summer offensive took place last summer, during which the Ukrainian soldiers continued to fight without showing any weakness or retreat. However, the Russian army is showing the opposite picture. At the moment, Russian soldiers are in a counter-attack position, but before long, they are bored with it. So this increases the tendency of the Russian soldiers to flee from the front. So recently, a number of leaflets prepared by the Russian war leadership were allegedly airdropped into the Russian trenches, and the phrases in the brochure was quite remarkable, because the phrases in questions were as follows: advance or you will go to jail for 10 years. It is better to kill yourself than to surrender to the enemy. And and you can only win thanks to the God's chosen one, the great Vladimir Putin. Kneel before great Putin and kiss his feet. So these statements distributed to the Russian soldiers by the Russian war leadership are indeed alarming. It seems as if the Russian war leadership has turned the Russian army into a medieval cult, and allegedly even these who threw these leaflets in the trash were investigated. The Russian war leadership does not seem to tolerate even the slightest mistakes in the propaganda process. But aren't you wondering what prompted the Russian war leadership to distribute these leaflets? So, if you remember, the Russian war leadership is currently on the offensives to capture the Kharkiv center, but capturing the center of Kharkiv is not an easy task, because Kharkiv was previously occupied by the Russian armed forces at the beginning of the war, and therefore, after the Ukrainian armed forces liberated the area again, they took very serious measures. So, therefore, despite the ongoing intensive offensives, Russian troops seem to be unable to achieve a victory, except in the areas where tactical defenses have not been established. Following the latest fighting, the Russian soldiers reportedly deserted from the front line. When captured, the Russian soldier was severely bitten by the barricade battalion and subsequently arrested. However, the Russian soldiers' friends are appealing to the Russian war leadership and they demanded the immediate release of the Russian soldier, otherwise they would revolt. And there is an interesting detail to this incident. Allegedly, before his desertion, the Russian soldier had made a deal with the Ukrainian army. So, since the beginning of the war, the Ukrainian armed forces have managed to get many Russian soldiers out of the war. And convincing the Russian soldiers is actually not very difficult, because just giving them a chance for more human life can be effective in getting them away from the war, because Russian soldiers are deprived of even the most basic human rights on the front line. So the tactic of the Ukrainian armed forces to dissuade the Russian soldiers from fighting by offering them only a warm bed, food and drink has surprisingly impressed the Russian leadership. However, this strategy had an unexpected result. Many Russian soldiers deserted, and this unsettled the Russian war leadership, and measures were taken to prevent further desertion. So this method of issuing a communique to prevent Russian soldiers from deserting was a unique tactic. The communique clearly emphasized a leadership role to which Russian leader Vladimir Putin was loyal, and Putin apparently sees himself as a Tsar and wants his troops to be loyal to him, and this seen as a reflection of the Putin's growing authoritarianism and Czarist mentality. However, this scenario does not seem realistic. Despite living under Putin's repressive rules, the Russian people have realized their need for democratic and human values, and it is therefore unlikely that Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, will be able to strengthen himself in such a situation. The invasion of Ukraine was just one of the steps Putin took to achieve this goal, but as time progressed and Putin failed, the situation worsened. According to experts, the developments related to the mutiny of the Russian soldiers are quite commonplace, and they even claim that there are more mutinies than it is known, and here's what one excerpt said on the subject. So there are more problems in the Russian army than it is known, and suppressing these problems is what the Putin regime does the best. And if these facts come out, the Putin regime would lose a lot of power. He doesn't want that, but the Russian soldiers have been suffering for 2 years, and this ordeal will not end easily at this rate. Russian soldiers are fed up, and they see that the only way to change the situation is to end the war. What happens if the Russian soldiers stop fighting? We have seen the Russian army's external resources have not been very successful so far. But what do you think? Do you think that mutiny of the Russian soldiers could be a sign of internal dissatisfaction and unrest? Is the Russian leader Putin planning to use more pressure in the case of military failure? And could the increase in the number of Russian soldiers deserting indicate that Russia is having difficulties in its military operations? Does the mutiny of the Russian soldiers indicate that Putin's style of governance is being questioned even within the military? Let me know in the comments, because you know that I read and I care a lot about all of your comments.